Right now, corruption in Albany, we know about the few bad eggs, the ones that are arrested or resign in disgrace. But is the whole system rotten? Well, a new report, one ordered by the governor, says yes. So where do we go from here? Our table will discuss. And then Obamacare off the mats. The president puts his arms back around his signature health care legislation and starts selling it to the American public once again. But the question is, will it be enough to help the reform program and his stagnating administration? And later, lifestyles of the rich and mayoral. The billionaire mayor can go anywhere he wants, anytime he wants, but does that mean he can go MIA when disaster strikes? How much do we really need to know about where our leaders are at any time? Good evening and welcome to RFL. I am Richard French, and thanks so much for joining us this Tuesday night, December 3rd. They are the who's who of Albany's crooks here, the worst of the worst, the dishonor roll of public corruption, greed, and putting self above civil duty. In short, they are the people who are giving Albany a bad rap. Some have ended up under indictment, some resigned in disgrace, some even turned informer, catching other Albany crooks in the process. But they're not the limit to what is wrong with the New York State government. No, it turns out the system itself is also to blame, or so says the first report from the commissioner that Governor Andrew Cuomo insisted on to identify Albany's problems and to get needed changes done. And for more on that scathing report, let's bring our senior political correspondent, Andrew Whitman.
And Rich, maybe the biggest news in this report is that the report isn't bigger news. The public perception of Albany is so low right now, even the breadth and depth of what's essentially an indictment to the system, that no one is really surprised. Conclusion of the so-called Moreland Commission on corruption: it is commonplace in Albany. Their findings: hard evidence of probable wrongdoing. The panel recommending sweeping changes to elections, ethics, and campaign finance laws, including, quote, deplorable conduct, some of it perfectly legal yet profoundly wrong, some of it potentially illegal, and some findings the commission is handing over to law enforcement. The commission calls the state government a pay-to-play political culture driven by large checks where wealthy interests exchange campaign contributions for legislation, including various laws passed by the legislature that were custom-tailored at the behest of a single influential lobbyist. Also, the report says crooked candidates who spend money on personal items like clothing and cigars. Among the crooks, 10 current and former legislators who got six-figure travel reimbursements from their campaign accounts and from state reimbursements, bilking taxpayers and contributors out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Corruption in political parties and New York's multi-party system, including the Independence Party, which the commission says acted, quote, like a well-funded front for the GOP. Also slammed the State Board of Elections, with which the commission says consistently failed to enforce election laws, and campaign finance laws as well. So lax, the commission found, that fundraising amounted to, in some cases, legalized bribery. Even how the commission caught wind of the political stink was noteworthy. The panel turned to dime store surveillance and found even more wrongdoing in the process. They put a secret video camera in front of a shadowy medical storefront that took in millions of tax dollars but had few actual patients. That storefront was home to nonprofits that got $3 million from the state for what said were needed medical services, but the camera showed little foot traffic, and follow-ups found just one worker on site in what appeared to be a scam of taxpayer money. The committee did offer some recommendations on how to drain the Albany swamp, including toughening campaign fundraising laws, more limits on contributions, and calling for a public campaign finance system. But that may be a hard sell where it needs to be sold to become law in Albany. Spokesman for Senate Republican leader Dean Skello saying the GOP opposes public financing of elections, and that doing so would divert resources from schools and cutting taxes. Top Democrats like Assembly Speaker Shelley Silver backed the report, noting they had pressed for similar measures to those endorsed by the panel. And Governor Cuomo appears ready to make this an election year issue. He says he's looking forward to working with lawmakers on systemic reform. Rich?
All right, Andrew, thank you very much. And let's bring in our panel right now. Richard Brodsky joins us here, a former assemblyman himself, senior fellow at Demos, and so much more. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. We're also joined here by Anthony Figliolo, public consultant himself here, and vice president at Empire Government Strategies, and Andrew Whitman, who we've already met. Andrew, I'm going to start with you. If there was one headline that came out of this report today, what was it?
Honestly, to me, it was the total weight and volume of it, which is why I didn't want to leave anything out. But there were so many things that they seemed to find so wrong with the system, you almost makes your head spin as you try to figure out where you go from here. But it seemed to be the indictment of the system that legalizes this pay-for-play behavior. We've talked about this before, but that individual donors were able to generate and get passed into law pieces of legislation that you know are going to help them or their businesses.
But Richard, is anybody really shocked at these findings?
I am a little bit by the scope of it. It
didn't go further. It didn't go far enough. It's just scratching the surface. It's not going far enough.
Well, you're the only one who can speak from firsthand experience from the inside.
You're not going to like this. I'm a big fan of Andrew Whitman's, but he got it flat wrong. This
well, he didn't get it wrong. The Moreland Commission got it wrong.
But his description here, this commission did not do its job. And therefore, it focused on the dramatic storefront medical fronts, which are bad things, and really was divided on the key issue. The people closest to the governor voted against public financing on this commission. It was not a unanimous recommendation.
But it still did recommend public financing.
On a divided vote. And if you want to send a message to the opponents of public campaign financing, you have the Moreland Commission divide on it. And you have the Cuomo people being the ones saying, no, don't do it. Wait a minute, I'm not done.
No, but you're getting into remedy. You're getting a little bit ahead of it. The remedy to fix the problem, let's at least diagnose
You interrupted
the
me.
problem.
Let me go forward.
Go ahead.
I wasn't finished. The commission members said today that they didn't look at the executive branch. They had no conversations. That's a quote about the executive branch.
Okay.
Now, who's raising the big money in New York?
Well, the governor.
And the commission set to look at that explicitly states they didn't look at the executive
Wait a minute.
branch.
Are you saying what they found, not just with the storefront
I'm saying they
camera, it's defending the indefensible here,
I'm
right?
saying that they took a problem which is real and big, and they tailored it to a specific political agenda. The remedies for this could have been, should have been
I'm not
unanimous
talking remedy yet. We
and
will talk
systematic.
remedy, but I want to talk the problem.
The problem is infinitely worse. What about procurement lobbying? They talk a great deal about lobbying on legislation, which is passed in the legislature and signed by the governor. All those bills they didn't like, the governor signed them. And he's the one collecting the big money. Wait a minute.
Presumptuous in that, though, Richard, is that,
done.
presumptuous in that is that the governor should assume that the lawmakers voting on it aren't putting monies back into whether it be storefronts or side homes or whatever else.
The governor should take a look at the bill and then ask the same question he asked about the legislature.